Welcome to TD Place. As you can see, the flag's at half-mast in honor of the terrible situation that happened in Toronto, and on behalf of everyone at Ottawa Fury FC and our broadcast crew, our thoughts and prayers go with the families and friends affected in that terrible incident. Gordon Smith alongside me, Tyler McDonald, as FC Cincinnati comes into town to face off against Ottawa Fury FC in the second home game for Ottawa Fury FC. Just your thoughts, Gord, on the game last week, a 1-1 draw.
Well, I think it's a good result to get off the start. You know, you get that point. Coach Popovich was looking for that to get going. We see the goal here. The ball whipped into the front post area by Portilla. He eventually gets credited with the goal as the goalkeeper palms it into the back of the net. So 1-1 it ends after 90 minutes. A decent result for them. I thought over the course of the game they were possibly just shading it as a better team.
For FC Cincinnati, a big player to watch is a very familiar face for Ottawa Fury FC. It's former captain Richie Ryan as he comes and makes his on-field debut back here at TD Place. A fantastic player. Your thoughts on him?
Quality man, quality player, quality character. You know, cut from the same cloth as our own Colin Falvey here in 2018. He will be the driving force for FC Cincinnati here this afternoon.
We got to raise the fall championship trophy along with our player to watch for Ottawa Fury FC, Carl Howarth. He's going to be something where Ottawa Fury needs him to pick up here.
Carl came in 10 minutes into the second half last week. I thought he turned the flow, the momentum of the game, really provided a lot of pressure, a lot of pace down that outside, a lot of commitment as well, and I think that really pushed the Fury forward to get that 1-1 draw last weekend.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Gordon Smith will join Graham Ivory up in the booth for the call of game. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Hey, Impreza. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep. Ouch.
Good afternoon and welcome inside TD Place for Ottawa Fury FC Soccer. This afternoon, the Fury take on FC Cincinnati. Graham Ivory alongside Gordon Smith. Gord, Ottawa picked up a crucial point, their first point of the season last weekend in their home opener against North Carolina FC. A dramatic late equalizer off the corner from Christian Portilla. Confidence they look to bring here this afternoon against an FC Cincinnati side who on paper look very scary, but statistically speaking, not off to the start that they want to have this season. Only 8 points out of a possible 15, winless in their last 3.
Yeah, and I think conditions this afternoon are going to play a really, really big part. Ottawa, of course, likes to maintain that possession here. We see the goal quickly that went into the back of the net, punched into his own net by the goalkeeper to make it 1-1 in the, I think it was the 85th minute or so. But the conditions here all day have been rainy, Graham, and it's going to make the field very, very slick. The ball will arrive at the player's feet a lot quicker. That first touch is going to be very, very crucial. And if you're able to master that very early, you're going to be able to transition from defence into attack very, very quickly.
Let's have a look at our starting lineups, brought to you by Gabriel Pizza, Ottawa's bigger, better pizza, 310-77-77. And for FC Cincinnati, they like that 4-2-3-1 formation, and the key player to watch in here this afternoon for FC Cincinnati, the former Fury FC captain Richie Ryan, number 16 there, the defensive midfielder. He's the one that he's the supply line to the offense. We saw that here in Ottawa. It's no different anywhere else that he's gone in his professional career. He's the one that Ottawa must watch. Smith, Lasso, Keenan, and Hoyt across the back four. Spencer Rishi gets his first start of the season for FC Cincinnati. Kenny Walker in that defensive midfield role alongside Richie Ryan, Ledesma, Al-Badawi, Corbin Bone, and
big lad Koenig.
And Danny Koenig. For fans who remember the match between Ottawa and Cincinnati last year in Cincinnati, he was a handful. Very dangerous in attack, very good in the air. Ottawa's going to have their hands full, and Colin Falvey that's going to be an interesting battle this afternoon between those two.
And that 4-2-3-1 formation, it's becoming so prevalent now in football these days, Graham, isn't it? You're protecting the defence, you're protecting the attack, and it's making a huge difference. Here we see Ottawa set up in this 4-3-3, this false nine, so to speak. The bit of a surprise for me is that Adonja Reid is brought into the centre of the attack here. He played out wide on the left last weekend. I think they're going to try to utilise his pace, possibly to split the two stoppers right down the middle, Graham. And if you can go route one football, by all means take that if the option's available.
And Carl Haworth gets back into the starting lineup, the Fury captain, been coming off the bench the last couple of games now. You talk about Adonija Reid and in that role now being moved into the middle. You look at who he's going up against, and one of those defenders is 6'6" defender Forrest Lasso, who came to FC Cincinnati after spending a good early part of his professional career with the Charleston Battery. Fans will remember him from last year. But you're talking about almost an entire foot difference between those two players. So if Adonija Reid can get in behind Forrest Lasso, not only will that serve him well, but that's when you watch for the fouls and stuff like that, when you just have that complete size difference, and it becomes very awkward for a guy like Lasso to try and defend against someone who's that much smaller.
And I think one of the things you will see over the course of the 90 minutes, depending if these three do stay out there, Graham, is there will be an interlink between the two of them. Reid might take a run out to the wide right, Carroll might come across to the left, Taylor might go down the middle. There'll be all sorts of switching, just trying to keep the back four of Cincinnati honest here this afternoon.
And we are underway here at TD Place. Sergio Minicio in possession, goes back to Chris Manila. Should mention that our officials this afternoon in the center, Caroline Chenard, arguably one of the most decorated officials here in Canada. Chantal Boudreau, Eric Laliberté are the lines officials this afternoon, and Pierre-Luc Lozier, who we saw in last weekend's match as well, is the fourth official here this afternoon. Foul called there against Kevin Oliveira, just inside Miami's half.
I think, Graham, the one thing that has to be disappointing for Coach Koch here for Cincinnati is you've only scored 5 goals in the 5 games that you played. You got off to those 2-1 wins, and that's a great start for you. But then you lost, and you've tied your last 2 games, albeit 2-2 against Pittsburgh last weekend. But the fact of the matter is, you've scored 5, you've given up 4. For a team that's got championship aspirations, Graham, that's just not good enough, and they've got to be better, certainly starting with this match here this afternoon against the Fury.
Well, and there were some big off-season signings, and that include 3 of them from Miami FC. Blake Smith, who's in the starting lineup this afternoon, of course, alongside former Fury captain Richie Ryan. Those were 2 of them that did come over, as well as Michael Lahoud, who's on one of the substitutes on the bench. So and we know the success that Miami FC had, both winning the spring and fall championship last year. Weren't able to get it done in the postseason. But certainly some talented players joining the mix. We already mentioned Forrest Lasso coming over from the Charleston Battery. Should mention the substitutes for FC Cincinnati. The Canadian Mark Village, backup goalkeeper, Matt Boehner, Paddy Barrett, another Canadian, and Daniel Haber, Mike Lahoud, Jimmy McLaughlin, and another Canadian, Emery Welshman.
And I think it's imperative here, Graham, inside these first 10-15 minutes, much like last weekend. Carolina got off to a decent start. If the Fury can just hold Cincinnati, I know they're at home inside these first 10-15 minutes, Graham, settle down, A lot of big names coming in here in these white and orange shirts here this afternoon, but if you're able to just frustrate them a little bit, pen them back into their own half, I think that'll give the Fury a good foundation to go forward here into the rest of this match.
Subs this afternoon for Ottawa Fury FC, backup goalkeeper David Monsalve, the Canadian Thomas Meyer-Giguère, and the recently loaned to Ottawa from the Vancouver Whitecaps, Daniil Henry, the Canadian international. Jamar Dixon in midfield, Cito, Steven Dos Santos, and Gabriel Balbinati, the 3 substitutes available at the forward position for Ottawa. 5 Canadians in the starting 11 for Ottawa this afternoon. 5 Canadians also available on the bench for head coach Nikola Popovic.
Well, when we talked to John Pugh last weekend, Graham, at half-time, it was, we talked about the identity of this team and how certainly it's got Canada plastered all over it, and it's something I'm sure that Julian de Guzman wants to make sure that players all across this country fully well know that Ottawa's the place to be. If you're talented enough, if you're skillful enough, you've got the desire and the commitment enough, you're going to get an opportunity to play football here in the nation's capital, in your home country. So very, very good to see the amount of Canadians that we have here on display for the Ottawa Fury in 2018, Graham.
Yeah, an impressive number, and I'm very confident in saying this. I don't think there's another professional club in the world that has 17 Canadians in their roster, and that's a fantastic thing to see.
I wouldn't disagree with you there, but you're exactly right, and it's that hope. I mean, a lot of times you're selling hope that players can have careers here at the professional level, and if even in the city of Ottawa, you have so many players with a lot of talent.
Bad spot to give the ball away, and now an opportunity. Kenny Walker in possession for FC Cincinnati. Colin Falvey there trying to clear things out. That one takes a deflection and goes off the outside of the goal.
A lot of indecision, Graham, inside that 18-yard box. There was 2 or 3 chances to just welly the ball all the way up into midfield. Nobody took ownership of it, and very, very fortunate to see that ball go up and over the head of goalkeeper Maxime Crépeau.
It took the deflection off Emmanuel Ledesma, the Argentinian. Ottawa Fury FC in their black and red striped kits. FC Cincinnati in their white kits with orange across the shoulders. Again, they come into this match, had a great start to the season, won their opening 2 matches, lost their 3rd one, and have tied their last 2. They were in a 2-0 deficit last weekend against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds and were able to erase that with a very strong second half to finish at 2 apiece. 8 points out of a possible 15 for FC Cincinnati. For Ottawa, after losing their first 3, a 1-1 draw last Saturday here at TD Place against North Carolina FC.
An early injury here, and you mentioned earlier on about some of the subs for both teams. Lance Lang obviously is a player that we know very, very well here with the Ottawa Fury, Graham, with all his time at FC Edmonton, and at times he's been an absolute Fury killer with some of his performances against the Fury, and we just wonder if we will get an opportunity to see him maybe a lot quicker than maybe we do if some of these players start dropping like they are right now. Well,
the 26-year-old North Carolina native Nazmi Al-Badawi, who pretty much spent his entire professional career with North Carolina, has moved over this season to FC Cincinnati, and he was a key component to their midfield. We talked about him last week in the broadcast as well. So certainly that's a big miss for FC Cincinnati, but a huge gain, or sorry, a big miss for North Carolina, but a huge gain for FC Cincinnati.
And I think the game that I watched the highlights of, I think he was playing in a little bit deeper role. He was playing in the holding midfield role alongside Richie Ryan last weekend, I believe, against Pittsburgh, Graham. So I think it's a situation where the coach has options here with this Cincinnati team. There's quality all the way through the squad, a lot of depth, and that certainly allows you on a game-to-game situation, Graham, to be able to pick and choose what you want to do. If you need to go with just one holding midfielder and go like a 4-1-4-1, there's the opportunity to do that. If you want to bring in out-and-out wingers, they've got the opportunity to do that as well. Certainly we saw Lance Lang play right on the touchline a lot of times on that left side for Edmonton. So it will be interesting to see how the rest of this season develops. Certainly Cincinnati come in as one of the big guns in the USL, Graham, the amount of money that they've got. And of course, when you have a situation where you're playing in front of 20,000 people plus, not only as a player it must be outstanding, but if you're an opposition player coming into that environment, and just feeding off the energy that you're getting playing in front of so many people. It must be a fantastic feeling, game in, game out.
Well, and that type of attendance certainly affords you the opportunity. Foul called there as Carl Howarth is brought down, and demanding a card as Forrest Lasso
I tell you what,
tripped him off. And you know, he's
he
a fair
gone.
argument, because Carl Howarth certainly would have been in a great position there, but hacked down with that late tackle from behind from Lasso from the ground.
Yeah, and he's not happy at all, is he? He certainly was looking for a card, but you've got the free kick, 35 yards from goal. Now, what can you conjure up?
Delivery headed away. Carl Howarth, first there for Ottawa, tries to ward that out for an Ottawa corner and does so successfully in the battle against Kenny Walker.
It's almost like a block, wasn't it? Just threw himself in front of Walker to make sure that Walker wasn't able to get a foot in there. But another dangerous opportunity off a set play. You brought Falvey up from the back. He will be the target man. Brunner left-footed with this, out swinging away from goal.
Brunner's delivery. That one headed away, comes to the top of the penalty area. First there, Kevin Oliveira. Touch gets away from him, and now a chance for FC Cincinnati to break. Played through the middle, intercepted by Eddie Edward. Now Adonijah Reed running with pace here. Reed still going. Reed looks for an option, gives way to Brunner. His shot is blocked and now cleared back out to the midfield. First there, Sergio Minicio can't get a touch, and now FC Cincinnati look to counter. Danny Koenig. The 31-year-old Dane gives way. Back into the midfield to Richie Ryan, plays it back to Deco Keenan, the Israeli, and now Forrest Lasso whips it across to the near side. That was well out of the reach of Justin Hoyt, the 33-year-old Englishman, who also has a very impressive resume, as do many on the Cincinnati roster.
Well, there we see this penetrating run by Reed. He goes beyond Richie Ryan. Richie Ryan, he's asking a defender to come out and close Reed down. He doesn't do it, and the ball breaks to Brunner. And unfortunately, Brunner's not able to get it past the first defender. But a nice penetrating run from Reed. We need to see more of that here in this first half by the Fury.
Well, in the space that they gave Reed, you almost would have liked to see just a shot a little bit earlier. Good ball there from Tony Taylor to try and find Carl Howarth, who looked to get in behind Blake Smith. That one into touch here in the 10th minute, still 0-0 here at TD Place. While we have a break in play here, we'll have a look at our 3 keys to the game here this afternoon. Key number 1, win the possession battle. The team that wins with possession is most likely to claim the desired result here this afternoon. For Ottawa, possession is not only control of the game, but also a key defensive tactic too against an FC Cincinnati side with ample firepower. Key number 2, no time for Ryan. Fans are well aware of the ability of the former Fury captain, and they must limit his time and space and cut off that vital supply line to Cincinnati's offense. And key number 3, play smart and play hard. You've heard the adage, work smart, not hard. Well, Fury FC need to do both here this afternoon. They need to use their smarts, their discipline, and their heart to outwork FC Cincinnati. Carl Howarth now in possession for Ottawa. Adonijah Reed gets in beyond Kenny Walker, but that's cleared by Hoyt. Minicio with time to Christian Portilla. Good read by Portilla to find Minicio. Inside to Kevin Oliveira. He and Minicio play catch. Oliveira. Tony Taylor can't find an option. Shakes off Kenny Walker and goes back to Chris Manila. Returns it to Oliveira. Tries to send this one over the top, looking for Tony Taylor. He's able to bring it down, but touch got away from him. And foul called there on the challenge between Taylor and Forrest Lasso.
Well, I've got to say, Graham, I was very impressed with the play of Portilla last week. He just sits in front of the forward, the 2 stoppers behind him. And when the 2 stoppers break out wide to give the ball support down the flanks, Portilla just drops in between them, and it's almost like he becomes a 5th defender, just making sure no one's taking advantage of that space down the middle of the 2 stoppers. He had a great game last weekend, just nudged out for a player of the game last week by Colin Falvey, but Very interesting to see how he matches up against Richie Ryan here this afternoon.
Denny Cunning gets a run and tries to get goal side on Sergio Minicio. Looked like he was trying to sneak it in on the short side against Maxime Crépeau.
And it's one thing we talked about last week again. Certainly in the first half, the Ottawa Fury weren't doing as much of it as we would have liked to have seen, getting the two fullbacks, Graham, into central midfield, supporting down the flanks. Early here in this first half, we're 12.5 minutes gone. We haven't seen an awful lot of Eddie Edward down this near side, at far side. We haven't seen Manicio at all breaking down the left side here. So we've just got to, I mean, certainly we talked about the first 15 minutes and keeping things nice and tight. Manicio, it has to be said, we know he's not a defender. He's a wonderful player. He came on, his stats last week, Graham, were terrific. But not being a natural left-footed left back, it does make it a little bit difficult to get into the flow of what you need to be doing down this left side. And I'm sure Coach Popovich will be looking for a same performance here this afternoon. If he is able to get beyond the defender, down the flank, even better.
Yeah, statistically speaking anyways, as you mentioned, Minicio had a great game last week for Ottawa in terms of possession, passing, and certainly had his work cut out for him getting up and down that left side. But the advantage to having him in that role is his defensive awareness, and a defensive midfielder by trade. He's certainly very responsible on the back end, and that's a huge asset for Ottawa, especially when you have a guy like Chris Manila, who's also playing out of possession as a center back for Ottawa as they await Nana Atakora to get fit and return from injury. He's back now training. Of course, Daniil Henry joining the club on loan. He could very well slot into that role until Atakora is available, and now Tony Taylor breaking down the left side for Ottawa. Taylor 1v1 against Hoyt. Tries to cut to the goal line, gets beyond Hoyt, but can't get to the ball before it goes out for a goal kick.
Well, we had that chance, Graham, as we looked inside the 18-yard box. As Taylor's going 1v1 down this left side, it became 1v2. But there was only 2 red and black shirts in the 18-yard box. There was 6 white shirts picking them up. Good defensive tracking by Cincinnati. We need to commit a few more bodies from central midfield into the box when we have good positions, Graham, like we just had there with Taylor down the left-hand side.
And a reminder that following today's broadcast, be sure to visit the Ottawa Fury FC Facebook page and tune into our post-match show. We'll hear from Fury FC head coach Nikola Popovic, our man of the match, and some further analysis of how things shape out over the course of 90 minutes here this afternoon. Keenan plays that one through, and that one misses Ledesma. Rolls all the way back into the 18-yard box of Maxime Crépeau, making his 3rd consecutive start in the Ottawa goal. Has given up 2 goals in the last 2 matches. That 1-0 loss to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds 2 weekends ago, and then 1-1 last Saturday here in the home opener against against North Carolina FC. Manila, offside flag is up against Ledesma.
The minute he made the move towards the defender, Graham, to challenge him, the assistant referee's flag has to go up, and sure enough, the offside flag went up. You talked about the Ottawa Fury having so many Canadians, Graham. You look at the Cincinnati lineup here, such a cosmopolitan setup for them. You've got players from England, Denmark, Sierra Leone, Ireland. You've got Israel, you've got Argentina and the Netherlands. You know, it's a who's who of world football coming into one place in Cincinnati, and you know, they're obviously hoping that they're going to be able to ride the quality and the talent that they're bringing into that city to a USL Championship here in 2018.
Well, certainly expectations are very high for Alan Kosh's side, and they also fared very well last season in the US Open Cup. Eddie Edward clears that one to safety. Forrest Lasso first under it for FC Cincinnati. Surveys his option. Turn back to Lasso, gives way to Richie Ryan. Ryan. Declan Keenan all the way back to Spencer Rishi. Ryan whips it over crossfield. Justin Hoyt.
We've seen that enough times, haven't we, Graham? That 40-yard ball from Richie Ryan right to someone's foot here out in the flank. A lovely ball switched from one side to the next.
the thing with a guy like Ryan, and he was quite clear about, he did have MLS ambitions himself, getting to play in that league, and if not for his international passport, he could well already have found himself in MLS, but certainly has, since
I think
being sold to Jacksonville, he then gets sold to Miami FC, and
I think the one thing that's working against Richie obviously is his age, Graham, and it catches up to everyone. Whether your head still got it, if the legs don't have it, then unfortunately that's what's going to work against you. And at 33 right now, if you're looking at possibly another couple of years, maybe if it comes down the road for Cincinnati, at 35 it might just be a little bit beyond him as far as getting into that MLS level. But stranger things have happened. He's a wonderful player, and as we said off the top of the show, a terrific character and a wonderful man, and he's someone that Cincinnati's certainly counting on an awful lot here in 2018.
Tony Taylor looking to run this one down. Lasso comes a long way. Foul called against Tony Taylor. Not really sure how that was his fault. He was chasing down the ball. Lasso made the lunging attempt to get there.
And what happens, Graham, on this artificial turf is the ball checks up. It's not the same bounce as you get in natural grass, and unfortunately I think the defender was playing it as a natural grass bounce. Tony Taylor knew exactly what was coming. He checked up, and unfortunately for him, the defender just went right over him. Free kick called.
All right, let's head down to the sidelines and hear from our Tyler McDonald. Tyler?
Thanks, Graham. And just early messages coming from both clubs. Coach Alan Koch of FC Cincinnati asking for a little more support as the ball is pushed upfield, and for his team to press more inside of the Auto Fury territory, try to cause those turnovers. The only real message so far for Auto Fury FC is from Coach Nikolai Popovich is trying to push Sergio Minicio up a little bit more on this near side. Of course, the midfielder playing left back for this one. That was the message in the first half of last week's game, and seems to be the same message here, guys.
Thanks, Tyler. And Tyler will be our sideline reporter throughout the course of this season. Great to have those eyes and ears on the touchline this year. Minicio to Tony Taylor, just inside the Cincinnati half. 20th minute here at TD Place, 0-0 between Ottawa and Cincinnati.
And we're now at the 20th minute, Graham. We talked about the first 10-15 that the Fury didn't want to be giving any chances up inside their own defensive third, and that's exactly what's happened. They've been nice and tight. The defence, the midfield possibly dropping back a little bit deeper to make it more difficult for Cincinnati to get any time and space in the midfield third. But the Fury right now playing a very, very good home game, just trying to contain a very, very powerful team in FC Cincinnati and limit their opportunities in the attacking third.
Look, patience is going to be the key today to the system that Ottawa plays and what they want to get out of it this afternoon. They can't force anything against the Cincinnati side. There's certainly just there's too much skill there for them to capitalize on errors. So patience is the key, and regardless of who the opposition is, patience is the key to the system that Nikola Popovich wants the squad to play. When you play that possession style of game, it's all about patience, trying to wear the other team down and make them commit, make them create their own errors, opening up opportunities for you to capitalize on.
And frustrate them, because I'm sure in a lot of the games that Cincinnati plays in, they've got the lion's share of possession, Graham. They're the ones that are at 60-65%. When it's the other way around, let's see how they react. Let's see how they counter it. And obviously, I'm sure Coach might at halftime make an adjustment or two. Right now, the two holding midfielders, yeah, they're fairly comfortable, Ryan and Walker in front of them. They're not really being put under much pressure themselves. Certainly, Reed had that nice run in the first half.
Delivered in. That one's cleared into touch by Chris Manila.
Well, we mentioned at the top of the show, Graham, that there's been a lot of rain here in the nation's capital, and right now it's ideal conditions for these lads out there, because there's a little bit of a breeze keeping you cool. It's not too warm. The sun every once in a while starts to come out, so it is going to be very, very good conditions. As I was walking in here, they were watering the park, and I couldn't believe that they'd be watering the park after we had so much rain that we had during the course of the night.
Oliveira brought down by a push from Kenny Walker. Play carries on, and FC Cincinnati take over. Justin Hoyt in possession. That pass intercepted by Adonijah Reed, going for Ledesma. Ledesma hacks him down from behind. Foul called in front of the Fury bench.
And that's a terrific read by Reed. I didn't mean to say that, but I did. He saw that Oliveira was caught out of position in central midfield. He'd made the run down the channel, and Reed did tremendously well, Graham, to get back and help out in central midfield. A good break here now for Cincinnati.
Danny Koenig able to stay on side here. Great challenge from Manila. Out to come out was Crepeau. And they call this a goal kick.
Well, I think that could have been either way, Graham, but Crepeau did ever so well, just keeping himself
and
big.
That had to be tight, but
yeah.
You know what? That goes back to a play that was earlier after there was a collision with Rishi coming out of his goal and Carl Howarth. Bruna trying to get to the ball, gets a push from behind.
Yes.
And that allowed the clearing attempt. No foul called on that play. And Danny Koenig was already off to the races. That must have been tight. Didn't get a chance to see how close it was to being offside, but Koenig in behind Chris Manila. Great defensive play by both Manila and Crepeau to come out and challenge.
And I think as a push in the back there, I think we're seeing Chenard just try to let both teams play the game. They're not a lot of extra whistles here trying to slow the momentum or the flow of the game down. Let it go and see what we can come up with from an entertainment spectacle here this afternoon.
Good read by Bruna to whip that to the far side to Minicio. Kevin Oliveira. Manila through the middle to Bruna. Had time, now gives way to Oliveira. Minicio under pressure immediately from Kenny Walker. Oliveira switches that over to Eddie Edward. Breaks down the right side, Edward. Cuts it back for Bruna. Bruna tries one from distance. That one blocked by Lasso, falls at the feet of Edward. Edward cuts to the goal line. Takes a push, and that one out for a goal kick. 25th minute at TD Place, remains 0-0.
Well, that's one of the first times we've seen Eddie Edward, Graham, be able to get down that right-hand side here. We're seeing busting into the 18-yard box. Kind of mishits it, comes off his left foot, I think, as he's trying to turn it across the face of goal with his right foot. But I think one of the interesting points we're seeing in this first half in the back four, the two wide players, Carl Haworth and Taylor for the Ottawa Fury, are pretty much being man-to-man. They're not being allowed an awful lot of time to find space down the flanks, Graham. And when that's happening, it is going to be imperative that Eddie Edward and Minicio down the flanks are going to get into supporting roles.
Portilla jumped in from that challenge from Ledesma. He wins the ball. Great read by Oliveira to come back and support. Now to Portilla, again to Oliveira. Manila in possession, gives way to Colin Falvey. Select is the official soccer ball partner of the USL. For the latest Select products and special offers, please visit www.selectsportamerica.com and receive free shipping on orders over $50. Eddie Edward down that right side now for Ottawa, cuts in. Carl Haworth pushes it back for Gerardo Bruna. Now with possession in the opposition half, Ottawa slows things down. Minicio. Oliveira trying to find that seam, forced back to Colin Falvey. Pressure coming from Danny Koenig, gives way on the right side to Eddie Edward. Edward in for Adonijah Reed, pressure from behind from Richie Ryan, the former Fury captain. Reed again spins off a challenge from Ryan there, but Cincinnati win the ball back. Stepping up was Portilla. Oh, good thing he got to that ball. Otherwise, could have been looking at a foul called against Nazmi Al-Badawi. The studs were up on that effort.
And I think the one thing you have to guard against, Graham, when you're playing with three men up front, and they are quite separated from each other, that you don't isolate yourself and get put into 1v2 situations. We saw Taylor about 10 minutes ago. He was left 1v2 down the far side. Eddie Edward, when he broke into the 18-yard box, it was 1v2. You've got to have some support inside that attacking third. And unfortunately right now, we just haven't seen enough of it from the Fury when they do get into dangerous areas of the park.
Run through there, and I think it was Ledesma that went to the ground.
Well, this is the first real good opportunity for Cincinnati to whip a dangerous ball into the 18-yard box. A couple of really big lads out there for Cincinnati that if they get an opportunity to attack it, certainly you've got Koenig up there at 6'2". He might have a chance. Lasso coming in at 6'6" as well. So if you float it up there enough, anywhere 6 yard to the 12-yard penalty spot, Graham, that is the danger area for the Ottawa Fury. Crepo's too far for him to come. The defensemen obviously working their way back to their own goal.
And it's the Argentinian Ledesma set to take the free kick here for FC Cincinnati. 28th minute. Ledesma whips that in low, cleared away by Portilla, comes out, and that one skied well over the goal and out for a goal kick.
Yeah, you would have expected a better delivery there, Graham, for such a dangerous area. As I said, you're bringing up the big lads from the back. They have to be disappointed that it just wasn't a good enough ball to just allow them a chance to get on the end of it.
Hear exclusive stories directly from the USL's players in USLsoccer.com's From the Pitch, with written video and content that provides unfiltered access and a first-person look into the professional game. As Adonijah Reed's run there takes a deflection, and that one should go out for an Ottawa corner, as Rishi was unable to keep it in play.
Well, we talked about the pace of Reed earlier on, Graham, going at these two defenders. He wants to get in between the two of them, force one of them to commit, and then if he's able to play the ball out to Taylor or Haworth for an even more open shot. But I've been very impressed by Reed's ability, Graham. Picks the ball up 35, 40 yards from goal, gets to the edge of the 18-yard box, puts a little bit of panic inside the heart of that Cincinnati back four.
Lots of promise from the young 18-year-old Canadian. And now Christian Portilla, seeing if Lightning can strike twice from the corner kick like it did last week. Delivers this one into the back post. And foul called in the 6-yard box as Spencer Rishi, the FC Cincinnati goalkeeper, went down.
Well, if you do not think that FC Cincinnati have done their homework on that goal last week and that they were going to allow that to happen again, you were absolutely dreaming, because there's no way that was going to happen 2 weeks in a row. But again, a good corner kick by Portilla, changed it up a little bit, went to the back post area. Unfortunately, a little bit of a skirmish at the front post. Goalkeeper gets in the way of one or two players, referee makes the call, and unfortunately for the Fury, that chance goes a-begging.
Good interception there by Kevin Oliveira. Oliveira being tracked closely, gives way to Adonijah Reed. Reed gives it over to Eddie Edward on the right-hand side. Played it back to Christian Portilla. Oliveira now. Forced back to Manila. First touch nicely done to Sergio Minicio on the left side. Into Tony Taylor. Taylor looking for an option under pressure from Walker. Now Reed to Taylor. Hits him in the heels. And now Minicio in possession in front of the Cincinnati bench. Reed, challenge there from Kenny Walker. Off Reed and into touch for a Cincinnati throw, and they take it quickly.
It's offside, that, yeah.
Yeah, good play by both Falvey and Manila to hold their line, as Ledesma put a stride in behind them too early.
It's just smart, isn't it? You know, you see that break coming, you try to take the quick throw in, you just allow the white shirt to make their way into the attacking third.
But it's, you know what? It's easier said than done sometimes,
yes.
Especially when you have four at the back, but especially with those two center backs, one of whom is not a traditional center back. So being able to have that read and those conversations to make sure you're both committed to holding your line and force an offside trap as they just did there.
And not only that, Graham, your first instinct as a defender is to take the step towards your goal. So making the read, the proper read that both of them did there. Excellent football, excellent understanding, as you said, between the two stoppers to just hold their line and let the player get in behind them for the offside call.
Minicio in possession inside the Cincinnati half. We've played 32 minutes at TD Place. The score remains 0-0. Taylor to Reed, quickly to Portilla. Bruna gives way to Eddie Edward. Edward cuts into the middle. Now to Oliveira. Oliveira, he'll try one from well out. That one cleared away. Eddie Edward wins it back for Ottawa in the Cincinnati half. Manila to Portilla. Ooh, good challenge there from Richie Ryan. Now a chance for Cincinnati to break here. Slow things up as they have possession. Walker back to Keenan and over to Lasso. Bruno watching Richie Ryan closely. Now Adonijah Reed steps in there. Kenny Walker. All over the top for Justin Hoyt down that right side. Hoyt for such delivery, headed away by Colin Falvey.
That was a terrific read by the big Irishman, wasn't it, Graham? Because the ball was in there. Unfortunately, went over the first attacker. It was in front of the second attacker. Falvey just using all his intelligence and his vision just to step in front of them, split the two of them, and get that ball headed away safely.
Falvey in possession for Ottawa. Carl Howard trying to turn in behind Blake Smith. Lasso was there to clear it away. Eddie Edward gets a touch. Pressure coming from behind. Edward still in possession to Christian Portilla. Plays it in behind Oliveira to find Sergio Minicio on the left side for Ottawa. Pressure from Kenny Walker. Oliveira to Portilla. Eddie Edward and Bruna back and forth. Edward cuts inside, then gets a touch back to Bruna as he collides with Eddie Edward. And a foul called there as Gerardo Bruna goes down under the challenge from Al-Badawi, I believe.
Nice little play by Eddie Edward. Nice little play there by Eddie. He ghosted beyond a couple of players there, and the right foot just left out there. Bruna didn't need much of an invitation to go over, but a very, very dangerous area now, Graham. We're almost, what, 30 yards from goal, 33 yards from goal. It is a fair distance out, but if you get enough power in it, try and put this goalkeeper under pressure.
Well, there was 4 of them in there, and Carl Howarth has conceded the opportunity. Portilla stepping his way out, so it leaves Bruna and Oliveira to take the set piece for Fury FC.
Yeah, your left footer probably the more favourable choice here.
Bruna, his delivery takes a bounce. No, caught low by Spencer Rishi. Good delivery from Gerardo Bruna.
It's a really decent strike.
Almost hopped there by the near post.
I think if the initial shot, Graham, had been 5, 6, 7 yards closer, I think the forwards would have been able to get in a little bit quicker. Because FC Cincinnati were holding that line right along the 18-yard box, it gave the goalkeeper lots of time, if he did spill it like he did, to recover and get it on the second bounce. But decent effort by Bruno. I have to say, I think the Fury performance here inside these first 35 minutes, Graham, has been spot on. Yes, they're keeping possession. I'd like to see a little bit better support in the attacking third, but they're composed, they're well organised in that back line, and they're making it very, very difficult here this afternoon for FC Cincinnati to get anything in the attacking third.
Forrest Lasso in possession now for FC Cincinnati. Richie Ryan. There's a long ball played through. Danny Koenig was onside, but a bit too heavy for the Dane to get on the other end of. And we'll now head down to the sidelines and chat with Tyler McDonald. Tyler, what do you got for us?
Thanks, Graham, and we're really noticing Ottawa Fury switching sides of play here so far in this one. And when that is happening, Coach Nikolai Popovich really wants to see on the far side Carl Howarth make a run, make that early run as the play is breaking toward the other side. Feels like he hasn't been doing that so far in the first half, so expect to see Carl Howarth make a little more runs. Back to you guys.
Cheers, thanks, Tyler.
I think that ties in, Graham, with the fact that's not offside. I think that ties in, though, with the fact that both wingers are being extremely tightly marked, as we've mentioned earlier on, and it is tough for Carroll, because if he gets beyond that first man that's covering, the big stopper is coming across to help out, and again we're seeing these 1v2s. And we're seeing Reid right now almost dropping back into midfield, almost as if you're playing with a diamond there. You've got Portilla, you've got the two central midfielders, Oliveira and Bruna, and then Reid drops a little bit deeper, leaving the two wide men. There's nobody at times down the middle of that park. And we said that Reid does like to run at defenders, and that's all well and good.
Great ball by Portilla, just didn't curl enough to find Carl Howarth, who applauds the effort from the Fury midfielder. It's a heads-up play as a great feed from Manila to find Portilla in the middle. Good delivery into the penalty area, just didn't get the curl on it to find Howarth, who was trying to break in behind Forrest Lasso.
Well, the sun starts to come out here in Ottawa, Graham, and hopefully it'll stay like this afternoon. About 4 o'clock we're expecting more rain, so hopefully it'll finish the match before it does come back and spoil the party, so to speak, here today.
Should also mention that when the players came onto the pitch prior to the anthems, that they did have a tribute on the video scoreboard here at TD Place to honor the former Fury captain and welcome him back. And despite him playing for Jacksonville and then Miami, anytime those two clubs came here, with Jacksonville, he was in the midst of getting traded to Miami, and then when he was with Miami, he was injured that one season of 2016 before Ottawa made the move to USL. So this is his first return to his old stomping grounds. An
absolute consummate professional, Graham, and he's a type of player you'd want in your lineup every single minute of the game. And he just got the ability, and we think back to that 2015 season that the Fury won the fall championship. Richie Ryan was out injured for a very early spell in that spring season, and they were really struggling. He came back, I think, with about 3 or 4 games left to go, and they put a string of draws together, Graham, that really set the fall season up for them. And I think it was Richie's presence coming back, just giving that little bit of calmness in front of the back four. We had Alves, we had Falvey playing like a rock back there, and it really settled everything down. And he's the glue. A lot of times he's the glue that make things tick for his teams. You
want a scary statistic, and it's a good one, for at least in Richie Ryan's case. But in his professional career, which today, his 296th career match, and in the 3rd minute, he reached 21,500 career minutes. When he starts a game, 71% of the time they win. That is scary in this game when you think of a player who can be that effective on a match.
That is an incredible statistic, to be perfectly honest with you. If you had that record at any level of sports, you're going to be winning some championships.
FC Cincinnati in possession on the left side. Carl Howarth back to help out. Al Badawi now. Kenny Walker under pressure from Oliveira. Richie Ryan tries that penetrating pass, intercepted by fellow countryman Colin Falvey.
We really haven't seen much from Al Badawi at all in that attacking role, Graham, have we, in the centre of attack. It's been very, very quiet for him. And
good read by Kenny Walker to intercept that play, but the pass goes begging and into Maxime Crépeau. With some pressure from Koenig and rolls it out for Minicio.
And I think if anything, the Cincinnati coach must be disappointed that he's just not been able to penetrate this back four. There's just been nothing as an option for you, whether it's wide, whether it's down the middle, anything. The Ottawa Fury inside these first 40 minutes, Graham, have dealt with absolutely everything that Cincinnati's trying to do to them. They're frustrating them. Al Badawi's been very, very quiet. Koenig up front's been very, very quiet. There just hasn't been enough from Cincinnati looking at them as a lineup that's going out there with big names, big pedigree, big ideas to try and win games and trying to win championships. And it's been a disappointing first 40 minutes, in my eyes, for Cincinnati coming in here against a team, let's be honest, they're sitting as 16th in the Eastern Conference, Graham. You know, 4 games played, 3 losses, 1 tie, -9 goal difference. Losses to Charlotte, Tampa Bay and Pittsburgh before that tie last week against Carolina. I think Ottawa Fury's played a really good first 42 minutes.
Benicio shepherds that one out, and you know, they talk about this in playoffs, right? That you're not in trouble until you've lost at home. And you know, as long as Ottawa can maintain the fortress that is TD Place this season, you know, I know they wanted 3 points last week. They certainly need a very strong performance this afternoon to pick up all 3 against FC Cincinnati. But as long as you're gaining points at home, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. And certainly they can't just be single points, is where you got to really make hay and pick up the victories. But no question, results at home, you know, as long as you're getting that, you're not in trouble.
Oh, what a play by Falvey there. Again, the ball just checked up on the AstroTurf, or the artificial turf there, Graham. Falvey read it to perfection. He knew the ball was going to be a lot slower getting to the striker, who was waiting for the ball to come. In this condition, you've got to go to the ball. You can't allow it to come to you. And I think the field's starting to dry up. With the sun coming out, the wind blowing, it was wet earlier on. We said it will arrive at players' feet a lot quicker than they would expect. As this first half has progressed, it just is drying out, and it's making it more difficult for players to try and gauge exactly. Certainly Cincinnati, the Fury practice here on a daily basis.
Opportunity now for FC Cincinnati, delivered in. Great clearance by Chris Manila, falls to Richie Ryan. Pressure coming there from Gerardo Bruna, and now Ottawa Fury FC away with numbers. Bruna to Howarth. Has Reed ahead of him. Gives way to Reed. Reed gets a touch. Finds Tony Taylor. Gets away from him and goes to Justin Hoyt. Able to clear it away, but Adonijah Reed in possession for Ottawa. Ottawa slows things up here. Cincinnati back to defend with numbers. Minicio to Taylor. Pressure coming from Richie Ryan. Eddie Edward on the right side for Ottawa. Tries to get beyond his man. Checks back for Bruna. Whips it across to the left side for Minicio. First touch to control. Oliveira to Reed. Reed plays this one over the top. Oliveira gets through. Can he get a shot away? Puts it in for Howard. He turns in a good block. And now an Ottawa corner here. Some great movement and arguably the best chance of the game from either side as Carl Howard's opportunity cleared out for an Ottawa corner.
And I thought right there, Oliveira was going to pull the trigger. I think he just checked up wrong for him. And he decided to try and cut it back for Howard. The ball, yeah, it curled back towards him, Graham, unfortunately on the bounce. He just wasn't able to get it in his natural flow for a left-footed drive across the face of the goal. But good counter-attack, good build-up play by the Fury.
Bruna's delivery, that one cleared out, and for another Ottawa corner here in the 44th minute. That was Blake Smith who had come back to help defend the left back, coming all the way across the face of goal to help block that effort from Carl Howard. Bruna again to deliver for the Fury. Sends this one into the back post. This will miss everyone and find Kenny Walker. Touch gets away from him. Portilla able to get to it, but knocks it into touch for a Cincinnati throw deep inside their own half.
Yeah, you kind of outkicked your own coverage there on that second corner kick, Graham, all the way to the back post area. The containment man didn't go deep enough to just knock it back across the face of goal, and unfortunately for the Fury, two set plays, two good opportunities inside the final couple of minutes here of the first half. Came to nothing for you, but you still maintain possession now in the attacking third.
Eddie Edward loses possession but wins it back nicely. Good battle there on the right side. Eddie Edward still going. Wanted a foul called and still trying to win that ball back for Ottawa. Carl Howard now takes over against Richie Ryan, tries to cut inside, and that one can't get to it in time. Out for a goal kick as we hit the 45th minute here at TD Place. No word yet what we have for stoppage time.
And terrific determination there by Eddie Edward down the right-hand side. Again, he seems to have camped himself a good 15, 20 yards up the park, Graham, than what they started out with. Minicio still, I think, a little bit worried down this left-hand side. Every once in a while, number 11, Danny Koenig, comes out to this side where the left full-back is, and he just has to keep himself honest. You talked about defensive first being your responsibility, and when you do have the chance to get into attack to help out, that's what you need to do. But when Koenig comes out wide, Graham, you've really got to make sure you stick with him. He's a danger man all over the park.
Kevin Oliveira and Kenny Walker with a good battle there, and Oliveira with the extra nudge at the end gets called for the foul.
And that's not
I think they're going to call it back earlier on the initial pull.
A good 10 yards before that, referee Chenard trying to play the advantage role, good officiating, but Walker was just unable to get beyond Oliveira, and finally the whistle went.
Kenny Walker is an absolute beast. He might be 5'9" in frame, but he's built like a brick house and challenges like one too. And some good battles, especially between him and the more slighter Oliveira this afternoon. Ledesma to take. Plays that one in, and I think a bit of a either miss-hit or misread as he tried to pick out Danny Koenig, and it falls to Crépeau. That's the whistle to single the opening 45 minutes of the first half. And Gord, they have to be pleased with that opening 45 minutes, possession in their favor. And we're going to head downstairs and join Bianca with head coach Nikola Popovic, brought to you by Ross Video.
All right, coach, so what is your impression of the game so far?
I think the game started very, very even, but from the minute 25, I think we started having more possession and being more aggressive and creating some chances. However, we have to be a little better on the last third and create even more chances to try to score a goal.
And what message will you be passing on your players for the second half of this game?
Is this we have to find less third, we have to find the penetrating passes and be a little bit more aggressive.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thanks very much, Bianca. And Gord, you know, as Nikola Popovic said, really pleased with that first half. They need to be a bit better in their finish in the attacking third. But, you know, he was right. We talked about the start of this game and how Ottawa had to play in the first 10, 15, 20 minutes. And he felt that his side, as of the 25-minute mark, really started to take over. There's a lot more possession. Possession pretty much dead even between these two sides. But overall, if you could say, how would you like your first half to go? I think they'd be pretty pleased with what we saw.
I don't know if there's been an awful lot of shots on goal, and we will get the stats at half-time, but the fact of the matter is, the majority of the play, when it's not been in central midfield, has been in the attacking third for the Ottawa Fury, and that has to be something positive that Coach Popovic is going to take into his lads here at half-time.
0-0 through 45 minutes here at TD Place. Coming up in our halftime show, we'll hear from Tyler McDonald, and we'll be joined by Ottawa Fury FC General Manager Julian de Guzman. Stay tuned after this. 0-0 Ottawa and Cincinnati through 45 minutes. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Hey, Impreza. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep. Ouch.
Welcome back to TD Place here after 45 minutes of play. Still goose eggs all over the scoreboard here as we take a quick look back in this game. And of course, both these teams looking to try and come out with a second half win. And really the goalies have been very clean so far in this game. And speaking of goalies, we'll take a look at Week 6 saves of the week in the USL.
Ball line ahead, excellent ball, header, save, Cohen, and Jaqua's been robbed. And even if Jaqua's got to dap him up. Place to the inside, little give and go. Pass inside, shot, and Peiser's able to make a tremendous save.
Unbelievable save.
Oh, good ball, here we go. He's onside, A.J. and Jaquan. Deflected over the crossbar, Callie Brown does it again. Navarro serving, wonderful ball. What a save by Restrepo! Kaffa had that inside the post.
Hippie able to find his man after a bad play by Josh Phillips, and Kendall McIntosh forced into a good save to keep Reno scoreless.
We'll take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll have Graham Ivory and Gordon Smith talk to GM Julian de Guzman. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Welcome to the Breakdown once again. Thank you to everyone on social media that's given me positive comments, and I really appreciate the support. Here's episode 5, week 6 of the Breakdown.
Canadian sojourn here in 2018.
Played into the penalty area, some good give and go here. There's a shot, and they've opened the scoring.
This team goal by North Carolina is fantastic. If you notice that there's always players on the move, they're always giving the attacking player who's got the ball an option to move. For Rios there, he has 2 or 3 options at the time when he received the ball, and he just found himself in extremely good space. But again, it's just the constant movement of the team, and it makes it very difficult for the defenders to track runners. Once again, it's a fantastic first-time finish, especially on turf, into the top corner.
Oh, bad back pass. Arboleda picks it up, takes the shot, and puts it in the back of the net.
Arboleta's goal starts with his positioning. If you notice, he gives himself an opportunity to close down the centre-back, and he reads the pass extremely well and uses his pace to get there. And then obviously once he's used his pace, he has to slow himself down. And you see from the finish that there's nothing the keeper could do about that. The celebration is not so much in for Player of the Week, but the finish definitely is.
For Escalante. Goes well to pick this up. Goes through the legs of Navarro. Sends the service. Had it.
Escalante's skill here has 2 or 3 different stages. The first stage is when he receives the ball, and it's not the greatest ball to him, but he makes the most out of it. And when he turns, the defender, he's expecting the defender to tackle him. When the defender doesn't make a move, then that's his opportunity to create the skill. And the composure as well. Once he's made the skill, not to get carried away, but to have the composure to cross it. And it's a fantastic cross, and I think he's expecting more from his striker there.
Iwasa, Bijev. Bijev cuts, plays it across, oh, it's in!
When Hall receives the ball here, it's not the easiest ball to deal with. He uses it to his advantage, and it draws 2 defenders out. And once he's drew the 2 defenders out, it then creates more space for Bijev. And when he receives the ball, I think the defender's expecting him to go on his right foot, but he does a fantastic skill. And at a tight angle there, it's a fantastic finish. The composure to relax himself, but to slot it through the keeper is fantastic. And it makes it very difficult for the keeper to get down low when he shoots it at his legs. I hope you've all enjoyed episode 5, week 6 of the Breakdown. I look forward to seeing you next week.
Welcome back to TD Place. 0-0 through 45 minutes between Ottawa Fury FC and FC Cincinnati. We're now happy to be joined by the general manager of Ottawa Fury FC, Julian de Guzman. Julian, it was 3 years ago in April that you signed with Ottawa Fury FC. Led the team to its first piece of silverware that season in 2015. The next year you captained the team. You retire from the professional game. You take over as an assistant coach. 2/3 of the way through that season, you become the head coach, and now you're the general manager. Would you ever have thought that in your career, especially a 3-year window, that you would go through a journey like that, and talk to us about that journey?
If I ever did as a player, I would have thought maybe in 10 years. But you know, here I am today in this role, and I'm truly honored and thankful to have this opportunity to be involved with the Canadian team and you know, help grow success for the future of the game in Ottawa.
And very important, the word you just mentioned there, Canadian. Obviously, it's heart and soul for you.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I believe there's 17 Canadians now in this squad. How important was it? We talked to John Pugh last week, and that's a bit of an identity, I think, that the club itself is trying to make sure they go forward with. But for you, as a Canadian international, how important was it to make sure that your stamp of approval would go on every single one of these Canadian players that were coming in here?
Yeah, I'm here to inject everything that I've been through in my career. You know, everything I've been through as a Canadian, worldwide. Here I am with a Canadian club, and this is the identity that we would like to paint across the badge. You know, being a part of this team as a Canadian, as a captain for my national team as well. I think this is an opportunity as one of the few Canadian professional teams in the country to give an opportunity for pro soccer in this country. And I think with the research and experience I've done through 18, 20 years of professional soccer, here I am now to give back based on what I've gone through and help grow the game in Ottawa.
Just a quick one for you. Just talk about your first hire in Nikola Popovic and how important he's been, especially into buying into this notion of, hey, we want it to be Canadian players here with the Fury.
he had a chance to learn the culture here. I showed him around. I explained to him the structure of Canadian soccer and how we struggle as a nation. And he's recognized a lot of good qualities and positives. Same things I've been through as a player. How do we grasp that and grow it with Ottawa? So here he is now identifying some of the top prospects in Canada, and we like to call them above average Canadians who are involved with this team. And we're here at the same time now to produce a successful organization with the philosophies that he believes in, I believe in, very parallel. And I think we've seen a lot of good qualities so far up until now.
Julian, appreciate the time, and we hope the results continue to come here in the second half for your side.
Thank you.
That's Ottawa Fury FC General Manager Julian de Guzman. 0-0 through 45 minutes at TD Place. Back after this. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Hey, Impreza. What's new?
Well, I've got this available reverse automatic braking feature.
Oh.
When I reverse, I can automatically brake if I'm about to hit something.
All I do is beep.
Subaru
Beep.
Impreza.
Beep. Ouch.
Welcome back inside TD Place. 0-0 through 45 minutes. And Gord will have a look at our first half stats. Pretty even on both sides of the ledger. And of course our statistics brought to you by Rico, and really the one that they're going to be happy about, possession dead even, but shots favoring the Fury.
And I think that's indicative of the fact that, as we said during the first half, anything outside of central midfield was predominantly being played in the attacking third for the Ottawa Fury. Reeds looked very, very sharp, going 1v1 on defenders. A couple of times he got in behind them, just trying to split the two stoppers in the middle. And I think that's indicative of the fact we've had 5 shots at target as opposed to 2 for Cincinnati.
And certainly some exciting opportunities for Ottawa Fury FC. And let's have a look at those first half highlights brought to you by Labatt.
Well, here we see this complete breakdown down the right channel for Cincinnati. Good play there by the goalkeeper, just keeping himself big. That left trailing arm knocked the ball back across. There's Oliveira making a decent tackle. And I think in the back line, the 4 of Ottawa Fury have looked very, very solid. Brunner there just trying to ride a tackle, couldn't stay on his feet. And there's a subsequent free kick. Good save by the goalkeeper in the end. No real challenge coming in for the rebound. Able to grasp it up at the second attempt. But I think overall you have to be pleased. There's the one for Oliveira trying to cut it back for Haworth. Carroll just can't get enough purchase on it. And there we see the ball just checked too close to Oliveira as he tried to get that shot away. And unfortunately kind of rolled up his leg. He realised I can't get a shot away. Cut it back, and Carroll just unfortunately couldn't get enough on it to get it beyond the goal line.
We saw in some of the highlights there, it was a really physical opening 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was.
I think, if it was a drinking game, it'd be pretty bad at home, because I think I said the word pressure at least 50 times in that first half, going both ways. There's not a lot of time and space out there, especially in central midfield, which, to your earlier point, it's great that Ottawa has had the opportunity that they've had in the attacking third.
And I think the one thing we noticed earlier on, we saw Reed dropping back to play almost like that front piece of the diamond. Portilla's the deep part of the diamond, Reed's becoming the attacking part of the diamond, and the other 2 stoppers are just coming in beside him. Other 2 midfielders sort of coming in beside him. So I think it's worked well for them. Reed, I think, is far more comfortable when he's got the ball at his feet, as opposed to trying to sit on the shoulder of a defender, Graham, and trying to get in behind them. And I think it's worked very well. The key thing for me is you've got to get Haworth, you've got to get Taylor more involved in that link-up play along with Reid. When Reid's going at defenders, if one of those two lads is able to set up a wall pass or something along those lines, even draw more white shirts in towards that area, it might free up something for Eddie Edward or Maniso going down the outside.
And it's only fair when talking about the physicality of that first half. You know, we call them out when we don't like the job they're doing, but we got to give our hats off to the officiating crew, especially Carolyn Chenard, who's really let them play this game, and she's played advantage at the right time. She's made the calls when she needs to, but so far I think 45 minutes, a well-officiated game from Chenard.
And I think that's been key to allowing the flow of the game to continue, Graham. The last thing we want to see is stops and starts because of an ugly little foul here or there. Play the advantage if you can, and we saw a perfect example of that with about 5 minutes left to go when Walker got taken out up and get the third kick of the cherry there by Oliveira. But the fact of the matter is, it's been a solid first 45 minutes by the officials, all three of them working extremely well together, and that's all you can ask as a player, it's all you can ask as a coach, and above all else, it's all you can ask as fans, that the game's been called the proper way.
Forrest Lasso forced back to Spencer Rishi in the Cincinnati goal. Skies this one forward. Kenny Walker first under it for Cincinnati. Minicio wins that challenge. Falls to Oliveira. Touch gets away from him, and he almost plays in Ledesma on a breakaway. Crapo able to clear.
Well, now that
Hoyt fighting the sunlight.
Yeah,
there.
I was just going to say, Graham, now that the sun's come out full force, it's going right in towards goalkeeper Rishi, and he's going to have a tough time.
Well, there's a dangerous ball forward. Opportunity here. Played it in for Cunning. Oh, he mishits it. Still loose in the penalty area. Crapo makes the save. Oh, Ottawa very fortunate there. And now Cunning tries to turn and hits it out for a goal kick. But a devastating
I don't believe I just
miss
saw what I saw,
by
Graham.
Danny Cunning.
From a player of that experience, 6 yards from goal, there's absolutely no pressure in front of him. All he could have got down on his knees and headed that ball into the back of the net, Graham. I don't know what he was thinking here. He just took his eye off the ball, I think, at the last moment. And there's still a lot of work for Crapo to do. He does well getting across and making the save, but my goodness, what a glorious opportunity. Times are on to perfection, and as he makes his way into the 6-yard box, I mean, I just don't know how at this level you can miss that open goal, Graham. I really don't know.
Well, and a great save by Crapo off Blake Smith, who was coming in also to help out after the Cunning miss off the delivery from Corbin Bone. Let's take a moment and head down to the sidelines and chat with Tyler McDonald. Tyler?
Thanks, Graham, and just some small instructions coming from Alan Koch and FC Cincinnati, and that's really just during the press, making some quick tactical changes to when they're pressing on the ball, but very encouraging from the sideline. FC Cincinnati, they're looking to continue to push on here in the second half. Also, no reports of personnel changes between halftime here between these teams.
Great save by Maxime Crapo. Thanks, Tyler, for the update.
Oh, they're just
and
switching
Colin
off.
Falvey quickly with a shout out to everybody in black and red as Ledesma's ball gets played into the penalty area, and Corbin Bone there once again, and another good save just by Maxime Crapo.
Absolutely switched off, Graham. They haven't come out here for the second half at all, the Ottawa Fury. They've got to get things steady the ship here. You're only 2.5 minutes in. You've got to come to grips with this Carolina press, and right now, the Cincinnati press, and unfortunately for the Ottawa Fury, they're having problems. Between Minicio and Manella, a couple of times now that ball's been played right between the two of them, not being picked up, and unfortunately for Cincinnati, they just haven't taken advantage of it. Great start to Cincinnati here in the second half. The Fury need to get out onto that field and out of the dressing room here in the second half.
Ledesma has looked good to start this second half, but Corbin Bone at the heart of both of those opportunities for FC Cincinnati. Ledesma again plays this one in behind. Cunning gets through, but as you mentioned, Gord, the offside flag is up, and that's something that's the style of game that you see from Danny Cunning, always hanging on that line, and unfortunately for Cincinnati, just jumped a bit early there. But what's that, third time we've seen him offside in this match?
Well, in this first 4 minutes we've seen in the second half, there's been far more urgency than we've seen almost in that entire first half by Cincinnati. Yes, the press does help. It gets more bodies into the attacking third. But the fact of the matter is, you're putting the Fury under so much pressure now in all areas of the park. 3 shirts swarming around a red and a black shirt every single time they get put on the ball. And when one of these players up front is able to make a run in behind the defenders, they're no longer checking out, Graham. They're doing it. And the ball's getting played in far earlier than it was in this first 45 minutes.
Carl Howarth down and remains down in front of the fourth officials table on the Ottawa sideline.
I didn't see what happened there, Graham. I'm not quite sure if he rolled an ankle or if he got a knock or something there, but here we see he comes in on the tackle. Oh no, he got a kick in the back of the calf there, I think, as he went down by the defender. I wouldn't say it was all totally intentional, but certainly it was a sore one for Carroll there, and he looks like he's slowly but surely going to get back onto the park here this afternoon.
Well, there was a yellow card given there to Forrest Lasso. And with that, we'll head down to the sidelines and hear from Tyler McDonald again. Tyler, go ahead.
Quick right away is that Nikolai Popovich really trying to get Colin Falvey to speak up and try to get us back four up and going in this start of the second half. Really haven't been really too awake here to start things off, and really trying to see some leadership put in by Colin Falvey. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Tyler. And certainly there was those opportunities for Cincinnati in the opening few moments there that should call for some attention to.
You know, a lot of times, Graham, at half-time you go in there, you've had a solid first half, you've taken the game at times to Cincinnati, you've been at long stretches of that first half the better of the two teams. And you go in there thinking everything's done, everything's taken care of. But with a team the quality of Cincinnati, they can come out and they can flick the switch, as we've seen inside these first 5 or 6 minutes. And Ottawa right now is just struggling to come to grips with the high pressure. They're struggling to come to grips with the energy and the commitment, the desire that Cincinnati has come out here in the second half with.
Ball knocked into touch. Eddie Edward with a throw for Ottawa. Adonijah Reed, pressure from behind by Lasso. Now Gerardo Bruna has some room to run here. Challenge coming from Lasso, tries to slot it through to Tony Taylor. Bit too far of a run for Taylor to make up to get to that ball. Rishi throws it out for Justin Hoyt. Blocked into touch. Cincinnati will maintain possession at midfield.
And you know, Graham, we talk about the situation with the injured players and suspended players still to come back. I mean, you've got 5 or 6 lads that are in the infirmary right now, as well as Obasi being suspended, that possibly in their own right would be out here in a starting position here in 2018. Atakora, Luboyera, Tiso, Salazar, Obasi. I mean, there's 5 lads that quite possibly Coach Popovich was looking at as maybe penciling in to a starting position every once in a while here, depending on what system and what tactics he wants to go with on the day. So it's positive for the Ottawa Fury that right now you're still at 0-0. A little bit concerned that 7.5 minutes into the second half, Cincinnati seems to have taken control of the match here so far. You've just got to try and get it back. See if you can maintain possession a little bit better. Don't concede it too much to Cincinnati, certainly in the midfield third, which right now appears to be the key area of the park, Graham, for FC Cincinnati.
Lasso in possession. Keenan back to Lasso, pressure coming from Bruna. Blake Smith. And you do have to say that Ottawa's done a pretty decent job so far of cutting off that supply line to Richie Ryan. Hasn't been able to spray the ball around, I'm sure, as much as Cincinnati would like him to so far. Walker goes out wide to Justin Hoyt. Hoyt, penetrating ball through to Danny Koenig. He's onside. Good save by Crepo, who comes out to challenge.
Oh, Falvey was wanting an offside there. I'd like to get a chance to see that again, Graham, because initially it did look as if he may have been a half step offside, but the flag stayed down. And again, Koenig with a glorious opportunity to try and break the deadlock here this afternoon. Oh, you know what? Played on the far side. It looked like it was Eddie Edward just leaning forward, Graham was playing him onside. Good call by the official on the far side. Certainly when Falvey turned around to see, he was a good couple of yards behind the back four, but at the time the ball was played through, certainly a far better look at it. The assistant referee making the call, and he kept the flag down, and as we saw there, it was the right call to be made.
High boot called there on Nazmi Al-Badawi. We talked about in the first half, Gord. It's easier said than done when you're trying to hold that line if it's not dead straight, and Edward had just drifted back just a little bit in behind both Falvey and Manila to play Koenig on side.
Well, the hardest thing when you're playing with two stoppers that are trying to stay straight with each other is that you have to have two minds thinking alike. When you have, for example, Manila just stepping up a little bit more, and Falvey's now the one that's going to make the critical decision. Do I stay or do I step up to play them offside? You've only got one person making that decision, and it becomes a little bit more cleaner, a little bit tidier as far as playing that offside trap. Unfortunately for the Fury, they've been caught out 3 or 4 times here in the second half already.
Cross coming in, Crapo with a touch, falls to Koenig. A great play by Crapo, and then the high boot called there as there was a theatrical effort from Ledesma to try and scissor kick that one in, and almost got Crapo in the face. But what spectacular goalkeeping by Maxime Crapo. 2 terrific stops on Ledesma on a great delivery from Danny Koenig.
Absolutely first class, Graham. I mean, the first one as it came in, he did enough to get it pushed away from goal. The other 2 saves he made were one-on-one, making sure that the ball didn't get in behind him. He did have cover in behind him, Graham. None of the efforts were very, very heavy with a shot, but the fact of the matter is, goalkeeper, right place, right time. That's all you can ask that your goalkeeper's going to do.
Well, and Ledesma does get a yellow card there.
Yeah, you know what, I think he's got every right to go for that ball, Graham. It's bouncing high. Certainly the goalkeeper is maintaining his position, but he caught him. Of that, there's no doubt, but he's got a right to go for that ball just as much as the goalkeeper does. And yellow card, unfortunately, for Cincinnati. That's their second in short order.
Good run by Eddie Edward, getting in beyond Corbin Bone.
That might be a third one.
Foul call there, and another yellow card. This one, does it go to Bone? Or does it go to Blake Smith? I think it was Blake Smith.
Yeah.
And great opportunity for Ottawa here on the lip of the penalty area to the left of Spencer Rishi.
Graham, we've been preaching it now for 2 weeks. You've got to get these full-backs into advanced positions. And that's exactly what happened there. Eddie Edward, 10 yards inside his own half, all the way to the edge of the 18-yard box. Now we have a dangerous opportunity off a free kick. Big Falvey's come up from the back, 1 or 2 other players as well. Someone just has to get their head on the end of this. Again, you want that ball around the 6-yard box, make the goalkeeper commit one way or the other. And if he stays on his line, someone in a red and black shirt's got to get on the end of this.
Well, Bruna and Oliveira behind it for Fury FC.
I wonder if Bruno's going to have an attempt here. I just wonder if he's going to wait and see where the goalkeeper moves, and he might just go right up and over the wall. If it's Oliveira, it's certainly going into the box.
Delivery cleared away. Manila, oh, great look off there, Ledesma. Then he falls down, Kenny Walker. And they take it quickly here. Ledesma tries to find Koenig. Koenig has a chance for a breakaway here. Great work by Sergio Minicio to get back in time and then clear it into touch. Fantastic work by the Fury defender.
Oh, you said it, Graham. That was absolutely fantastic because he's about 3 or 4 yards behind the big striker up front, and he's able to get good body position, Graham, without fouling him inside the box. And a wonderful tackle. We've just seen something going on there with the Cincinnati bench. Not quite sure exactly what, but they're not happy about something. The 4th official is just moving inside the technical area there for Cincinnati.
Throw-in coming here for FC Cincinnati. Jamar Dixon is kitted out and ready to come into this game at the next break and play for Ottawa. Attempted effort cleared away by Portilla, falls to Kenny Walker. Delivers this one in, headed away by Falvey, and Bruna does the rest of the job back out to the midfield.
We're understanding this, it will be Portilla coming out, so the holding midfielder coming out for more of an attacking midfielder situation with Jamar Dixon coming in. And I just wondered if Coach Popovich has realised that the Fury are just far too deep into their own half. They're almost camped 10, 15 yards out front of their 18-yard box, Graham, and possibly bringing in an attacking midfielder might just force Cincinnati themselves to push back towards their own goal line. But an adventure, certainly is an adventurous substitution. Portilla's been in that holding role, just trying to keep things honest with Cincinnati, but these first 10 some odd minutes, it's been a bit of a struggle, certainly down that channel between the fullback on the left side and the stopper.
That one goes over the head of Danny Koenig and falls to Corbin Bone. And a glorious opportunity squandered there by FC Cincinnati as Bone just couldn't find the target.
Well, you've got to say, Graham, that 15 minutes into the second half, it has been all Cincinnati with the chances. Definitely disappointing from a Fury standpoint that first 45 minutes of goodwill that you built up is just slowly but surely evaporating. And as we said, Portilla now coming out. I'm not sure if he's picked up a little bit of an injury. I think it's just Popovich reacting to the fact that Cincinnati are pushing the Fury back towards their own goal, and he wants to try and change that by bringing on an attacking midfielder for a defensive midfielder.
And with Dixon coming into the game now, 6 Canadians on the pitch for Fury FC, and let's head down to the sidelines and join Tyler McDonald. Tyler?
Well, you saw that argument between Alain Koch and Pierre-Luc Lausière, the fourth official, and really it was all due to FC Cincinnati complaining they only had 3 fouls really called in their favor. Now Alain Koch did go back over to Pierre-Luc, the fourth official, and apologize for screaming at him. So you see them talking now and laughing. Seems like everything is well between the two, but that is what the commotion was about. Back to you guys.
All right, thanks, Tyler.
And that's the equivalent of having your cake and eating it too, Graham. You get to say your piece, but then you get to make up and make sure everything's okay.
Benicio still trying to win the ball for Ottawa there. And Danny Koenig unable to get to that loose one. Falvey plays it back to Crapo. Taylor can't win that one in the air. Brought down by Deco Keenan. Ball stays in along the line, finds its way all the way back to Spencer Rishi, and his clearance effort ends up into the north stands, well off the mark.
Well, we're hearing now that another substitution for the Fury coming in. Steven Dos Santos will be coming in to replace Tony Taylor, and I think this will facilitate the fact that Dos Santos will go into that central role position down the middle, and Reid will get pushed out to the left-hand side where he played last weekend against Carolina, Graham. But certainly, again, you have to look at the positive changes that Coach Popovich is trying to make here.
Good read by Carl Howarth there as his cross was cleared away, and he just lets it roll out for an Ottawa corner here in the 62nd minute. And they will hold off on the substitute here as Dos Santos will await coming into the game for Tony Taylor.
Well, I'd have brought a 6'4" guy into the corner kick area, Graham, for sure, but he stays on the bench for now.
Bruno with the delivery. That one headed away. First to it for Ottawa. Adonijah Reid. Ledesma wins the ball away from Reid. Good run by Ledesma. Good challenge by Reid. Foul will be called there, and he'll pick up a yellow card for that challenge from behind on Ledesma.
Well, with Dos Santos coming in now, Graham, there's always the possibility that from a defensive mindset, when you have time on the ball on the back line and you look up there and you see a 6'4" lad, you want to pump a high ball towards him. You want to get that ball as directly and as quickly as you can into the attacking third. And what better way to do that than having a big target man? But that's also contrary to the system that you're trying to play with this false nine. Keeping possession, lots of passing, lots of movement. So it'll be interesting to see how Dos Santos fits in. He started off in the first game of the season, I believe, against at Charlotte as that lone striker up front, and I do think it's a tough role to play in this false nine if you're not able to do the movement, do the passing, do the into space running yourself. But he's a big lad, he's an intelligent lad, and I think he will possibly, if he does get a chance to get on the end of one of these balls played through from his midfielders, possibly open the scoring here this afternoon.
Into the middle, Al-Badawi finds Ledesma. Hoyt's delivery cleared away nicely there by Eddie Edward. Header miss, falls loose, and there's a shot that misses low and to the left of Maxime Crapo.
Yeah, I think a couple of Fury defenders there saying that ball came off an arm. The referee allowed play to continue there as the ball dropped. I'm not quite sure as it comes down from Eddie Edward here. Yeah, it did look as if it came off an arm, but play allowed to continue. Ledesma just getting the shot well wide of that front post, and it's a goal kick now for the Fury going the other way.
It'll be interesting to watch that battle between the big man Steven DeSantos for Ottawa and the equally big man Forrest Lasso on defense for FC Cincinnati.
And as expected, Reid has gone out to the left-hand side. The one thing you don't want with Steven DeSantos is coming as deep as Reid did. Reid certainly got the pace and the ability to go beyond 2 or 3 defenders. DeSantos needs to get himself encamped at the edge of that 18-yard box and try to get on the end of some of the scraps that may be coming in from a wide position.
Ball given away there, picked up by Sergio Minicio for Ottawa.
And ball given against Oliveira, I believe.
Richie Ryan will take over inside his own half.
The Fury, Graham, seem to have weathered that initial 10-15 minutes that Cincinnati came out with here in the second half, putting incessant pressure on the back four, getting lovely balls between inside the full back and the stopper, and making it very, very difficult for the Fury to get any rhythm at all from the defence out to attack. But things seem to have settled down now. We're 20 minutes gone here in this second half, and with a couple of substitutions made, Coach Popovich is maybe trying to change the flow a little bit of the game, maybe trying to change the dynamics of the attack for the Fury here in the second half inside these final 25 minutes left to go.
Well, I think it's Jimmy McLaughlin who's getting kitted out on the touchline now for FC Cincinnati here, who really, Gord, have let both Danny Koenig and Emmanuel Ledesma really push a lot further forward in this second half. And they've been the thorn in Ottawa's side. Steven DeSantos now for Ottawa.
That's
hard challenge there by Kenny Walker.
That possibly could have been a yellow there as well if the official decided that it was deemed to be a little bit untoward. But DeSantos, I think, just stretched out there, Graham, to make sure he got there first. Seemed to get away from him. That first touch was heavy. I think it was more or less just the follow through more. I didn't think there was an awful lot in that, but did get the free kick, and that's all that matters right now for the Ottawa Fury. 35-40 yards from goal, and it looks like there's 2 or 3 players. I prefer Colin Falvey to be into that box, but I just wonder if Falvey might decide he's going to have a crack at this. I think we've seen in the past him hitting 1 or 2 of them. He certainly doesn't seem to be wanting to get involved in the 18-yard box, and he's just dropping back into his. Oh, now he's being ushered forward. So the assumption has to be this will be a ball floated into the back post area where Falvey has gone. A shot from this distance when you've asked the big man to go up into that 18-yard box is futile.
Delivery from Oliveira. That one headed away. Falls to Carl Howarth. Sends a low one through. It takes a deflection and out for an Ottawa corner.
Oh, I thought Carl might have hit that at first, Graham, instead of letting it come down and taking an extra touch. It was a good ball to the back. It's not cleared properly. He just takes that extra touch. If he hits it first time, it may have been a bit more dangerous and caught the goalkeeper off guard.
But to that point, I think that might show the experience of Carl Howarth now in his 5th season as a pro, seeing that maybe that wasn't the option, trying to send that low one through. This one into the near post, takes a deflection out for a goal kick. Might have gone off the leg of Eddie Edward on the way through.
That's what I thought it was in the front post, possibly even Falvey if you got a, not Falvey certainly didn't get a touch on it, would have come off of Edward in that front post area. But
well, that near post delivery for Ottawa has caused a lot of havoc so far this season.
Well, when you start getting a mass of bodies in front of the goalkeeper, and we saw it last week for the tying goal from Portillo off the corner, goalkeepers like to have a completely open view of what's happening. Oh my goodness, what a goal! What an absolutely stunning goal!
Well, something from nothing there, and Kenny Walker unleashes one from distance.
I tell you what, that'll make highlight reels all over North America, Graham, because that was an absolute stunner. The goalkeeper was caught about the penalty spot, and the ball just absolutely rockets over his head into the back of the net. And my goodness, an absolute stunner here this afternoon. What a goal. What an absolute cracker.
He scored the match equalizer last week in the 2-2 draw with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and he's now put FC Cincinnati ahead 1-0 here in the 69th minute. an absolute rocket from Kenny Walker, who let fly from miles out, and now they come looking for more as Ledesma breaks down that right side. Delivers this one into the penalty area, free header for Bone, and it's 2-0. 2 goals in less than 60 seconds, and in a game that looked very close, FC Cincinnati now have a 2-goal lead.
Well, Graham, again, it's just a case of switching off. They got a free rein down that right-hand side, in behind the defender, and as the ball came into the box, 6s and 7s were the Ottawa Fury, and this game has absolutely turned sour for the Ottawa squad. Lovely header, but again, there's the width, there's the ball, lovely header into the bottom left-hand corner, and he says, put it on my head, son, I'll put it into the back of the net, and that's exactly what happened. 2-0 Cincinnati, and this crowd has just been completely taken out of this match, Graham.
Well, and we talked about that start inside the first 7-8 minutes, and Corbin Bone was at the heart of so much of those opportunities, and now he reaps the rewards of his efforts here in the second half, giving his side that 2-goal lead, and now we'll see how Fury FC can respond here.
Well, they've already made 2 changes, Graham, and I'm just looking at the rest of the subs here this afternoon. You've got Cito can possibly come in, you've got Balbinotti can possibly come in, you've got a defender in Mayor Giguère, so you probably won't be looking at bringing him in. Of course, Doniel Henry, another defender that's getting set up on the bench. So I'd be very, very surprised if you're going to bring in a defensive player chasing a game 2-0 with 20 minutes left to go. You've got to get the ball into the attacking third, and above all else, you've got to get the attacking chances.
Handball called there against Sergio Minicio.
And we'd mentioned, Graham, the fact that irrespective of that start in the second half for Cincinnati, the Fury had weathered that storm. But my goodness, you cannot legislate for the absolute sheer brilliance of a goal there by Walker. 5 yards inside the Ottawa Fury half. I mean, that's got to be what? All of 55 some odd yards getting that shot. Not only technically correct and technically brilliant, Graham, but to get the power on it, to get it over the goalkeeper with enough gusto for a 1-0 lead. And I think at that point the Fury were just absolutely flabbergasted that it had happened. Didn't have their wits about them, and within 45 seconds to a minute, Graham, it became 2-0, and right now you're chasing a game where, unfortunately, where you possibly had 1 point to hang on to, now you're chasing a game where you can, is it damage limitation possibly now when you're down 2-0?
Well, we talked about it earlier in the game, and that we weren't talking a ton about Nazmi Al-Badawi in this match, and now they bring in young Jimmy McLaughlin into this match and certainly inject a ton of pace into the side, as fans who followed last season be familiar with what Jimmy McLaughlin can offer for FC Cincinnati. Oliveira away now for Fury FC, being chased down. Plays back to Eddie Edward, nice touch there. Plays it back to Oliveira, loses it in his feet, and it rolls into touch for a Cincinnati throw in front of Ottawa's bench. 73rd minute at TD Place. It was 0-0 after 68 minutes, and it was 2-0 after 70 minutes for Cincinnati, and that's where we stand right now.
Yeah, Cito coming in, and I would possibly expect it might be maybe one of the 2 attacking midfielders, maybe Bruna or Oliveira going off, Graham. Possibly even a Haworth or a Reid, but right now you've just got to try and do something that's going to bring a bit of positivity to these final 17, 18 minutes, Graham, because right now, as we said, down 2-0, you've pretty much given Cincinnati all 3 points here this afternoon, but an absolute worldly goal, Graham. You cannot, you'll watch an awful lot of football around the world, Graham, to see a goal that spectacular and that quality. And I tell you what, the boy tried it. There is absolutely no way anybody's going to look at it and say, he didn't mean to do it.
Great play by Maxime Crépeau to come charging off his line, as once again, another penetrating ball by FC Cincinnati. Good turn there by Minicio to win that challenge against Kenny Walker. Vinicio still going. Tried to play it in for DeSantos, misread there. Cleared away, falls to Chris Manila.
Yeah,
Pressure coming from Manila.
DeSantos very, very deep, Graham, isn't he? I mean, there's a good 10, 12 yards between him and the two stoppers, and I think we'd just like to see him get up the park a little bit more, put those two stoppers under some more pressure.
Carl Howarth wins it back for Ottawa. Gerardo Bruna back to Howarth. Howarth 1v2 here, puts on the brakes, tries to find an option, still going. Howarth turns his man, Corbin Bone in there. Howarth still going, Bone takes over, gives way to Richie Ryan, now Blake Smith. Back into the former Fury captain. Slightest of touch finds Ledesma in front of the fourth officials bench. He skies that one into touch for an Ottawa throw as Cito now comes into the game for Gerardo Bruna here in the 75th minute, and that's Ottawa's third and final sub of the game.
And I just wonder if the Fury will possibly go to the same sort of 4-2-3-1 formation that Cincinnati started off, have Jamar Dixon and Oliveira as two holding midfielders, much like Walker and Richie Ryan were for Cincinnati. Push Dos Santos all the way up as a lone striker and play Reid just in behind, with a couple of players out wide on the flanks. But you've got to do something right now, Graham. At 2-0, it's been a disappointing second half for you, and you're now chasing the game.
Reid cuts inside. Ottawa still with possession here. Jamar Dixon picks out Eddie Edward on the right side. Edward waiting for some help from Carl Hauer, still going. Edward forced back to Jamar Dixon. Chris Manila. Oliveira cuts into the middle. Finds Carl Howarth. Touch to Eddie Edward. Touch gets away from him, but Howarth there for Ottawa. Into the danger area for Cito. Eddie Edward. That one cleared off Corbin Bone, deflects off Edward and into touch for a Cincinnati throw. Lasso with the clearance. Manila makes a meal out of that one. Now Ledesma on the breakaway, and it's 3-0 as he chips Maxime Crepeau, as the header just didn't come off for Chris Manila. And Emmanuel Ledesma makes it 3-0 in the 77th minute, and a game that looked like it could be destined for a 0-0 match is now completely going the other way.
Well, there's always that possibility, Graham, when you're committing bodies forward into the midfield third, into the attacking third, that you leave yourself open at the back. And again, a lovely piece of improvisation there by Ledesma, and that's a wonderful goal. Seeing the goalkeeper off his line once again, just chipping the ball up and over. Well, I think if you add up the amount of yards that these three goals have been scored by, Graham, you've got roughly 55, you've got about 25, and then you had 6. That's an awful long way out from goal when you start taking into consideration where you're scoring goals from. But a game that had been a tight affair, that was teetering back and forward, Graham. Ottawa was in the ascendancy, Cincinnati was in the ascendancy, has been absolutely blown wide open by a very, very powerful Cincinnati lineup here this afternoon in this second half. And you have to say, Graham, the warning signs were there inside that first 10 minutes, weren't they? That the danger was going to be there all afternoon for the Ottawa Fury. I think in the second half, just Cincinnati just came out with a far better purpose.
It wasn't that they were passive in the opening 45 minutes, but just that assertiveness in the attacking third. And that extra man in the high line of pressure just wasn't there. And then literally off the reset here in the second half, it was always Ledesma and Koenig pressuring that line, a lot of pressure down the middle. And then certainly some errors, a piece of brilliance from Kenny Walker. There's not much you can really do about that one other than to say, your keeper standing on his line, because ultimately that's the only way that one doesn't go in. Just a piece of brilliance from Kenny Walker as Eddie Edward gets down the right side here for Ottawa. Falls to Carl Howarth. Ball skips up on him, delivers it over. Adonijah Reid running in. Falls to Oliveira. Takes a one-hopper, easily handled by Spencer Rishi.
On that goal by Walker, if the goalkeeper's standing on his line, The coach is wondering, why are you there? Because he was in a perfect position. The ball's 55 yards up the park. You have to act almost as a sweeper near the edge of their 18-yard box. Unfortunately, just cut out by an absolute sheer piece of brilliance by Walker.
And FC Cincinnati keep coming here. We talked about it earlier, 5 goals in their opening 5 games. Well, they found 3 here in the second half, and now Danny McLaughlin onside, gets to the goal line, looking for Bone, gets a touch, tries to give way here. Forced all the way back to Blake Smith. Now Richie Ryan. Forrest Lasso, back to Ryan. Pressure coming from Cito. Keenan intercepted there. Cito plays this one long, looking for Steven DeSantos. DeSantos up in the air against Keenan, brings it down. Now pressure coming from Kenny Walker. Kevin Oliveira now for the Fury. Out to the right for Eddie Edward. Trying to find a seam here to get the ball through. Pressure coming from Bone. Now falls to Cito, to Oliveira. Delivers this one and in behind Steven DeSantos, and it will roll out the other side and out for a goal kick.
DeSantos had made that run across a couple of defenders trying to get in behind him at the front post. Nothing happening.
Let's head down to the touchline and join Tyler McDonald. Tyler?
Thank you very much, and really just the sense down here, devastation, frustration on the Ottawa Fury FC bench, kind of trying to figure out where exactly this went wrong and how this game turned on its head like that. We're going to have another substitution coming out for Cincinnati, as well as it looks like Emmanuel Ledesma is going to be coming out. Daniel Haber will be coming in for Cincinnati as they use their second sub, trying to take this game and come out with the 3 points. It seems like they're on their way. Back to you guys.
Appreciate it, Tyler. And Emmanuel Ledesma, goal and assist already on the afternoon. Looks to be given way when the substitute does arrive for Canadian Daniel Haber. Of course, Alan Kosh has coached in the PDL in Victoria and then was coaching in USL with Whitecaps too before moving to FC Cincinnati, so familiar with some Canadian products, and that's why you'll see a few Canadians in the squad of FC Cincinnati.
Well, FC Cincinnati continue their road trip next weekend at Indy 11. Midweek, they play at Indy 11, the same time the Ottawa Fury take on Red Bulls 2 Wednesday morning, and a very, very early start for everyone. And then FC Cincinnati will begin their US Open Cup, taking on the winner of Detroit City and the Michigan Bucks on May 16th at Gatler Stadium. So good luck to FC Cincinnati. It's always nice to see when USL teams do well, as they have done in the past, and of course we will be paying attention to the potential Ottawa Fury opponents coming up here in the next month or so, Graham, as the Canadian Championship gets underway here for the Fury.
Tough test on Wednesday against New York Red Bulls 2, the highest scoring team going into this weekend in the USL, but perhaps the benefit for Nikola Popovic's side is that you don't have a long time to kind of lick your wounds over this one. It's good that you get another game, you come out of there, you're still kind of feeling it from this one, you're not happy. You felt certainly through 68 minutes that you were well in this game against a very competitive side. Certainly it hasn't gone off the way you wanted it to. Now you can kind of take that frustration, put it into Red Bulls 2 on Wednesday morning in that school day game when you're going to have 6, 7, maybe 8,000 screaming young fans in attendance.
Well, I'm just watching this back four right now for the Ottawa Fury, and there's the absolute disarray. There's balls getting played up and over the top. They're checking in, they're checking out. They're not sure if they could continue the run with the midfielder coming through. There just seems to be all sorts of stuff going on right now that some of these lads just have to realise, hey, you know what, you're getting beat by one of the top teams in the USL. It's as simple as that. There's a reason why. There's another opportunity, Graham. Oh, what a play.
Falls loose, and that one just missed wide. And you know what? I will say this. If not for some of the missed chances and some spectacular goalkeeping from Maxime Crépeau in this half, the numbers could be very unflattering going the other way. But I know Crépeau's not going to be pleased with the scoreline here this afternoon and how it might reflect on on him, statistically speaking, but you certainly can't fault Ottawa's goalkeeper here this afternoon for his performance.
It's all been the second half here, Graham. The first half, I don't think Cincinnati really were any threat whatsoever in the attacking third. But my goodness, whatever Coach Koch said to them at half-time obviously resonated within that dressing room, because they came out with far, far better energy and purpose in the second half. The Fury looked to have taken care of that attack from them, but in the 68th minute, a goal that we will see for a long, long time, Graham, in highlight reels, certainly the USL website. My goodness, goal of the week, Graham, goal of the year candidate already, and we're only 5 or 6 weeks into the season.
Richie Ryan with some room to work in the midfield now. Blake Smith, two were teammates last season at Miami FC. Now Corbin Bone, back to Richie Ryan. Forrest Lasso. As they just slow the pace of this game down now. Kenny Walker in possession for Cincinnati. Wide to the right side for Justin Hoyt. Jimmy McLaughlin plays it in low, brought down nicely by Haber. Couldn't control it on the second touch. Cincinnati still pressuring here. That one
really
cleared
are,
away, but Forrest Lasso inside the Ottawa half.
It's been unrelenting here in the second half, isn't it? And every second ball just appears to be a white shirt that's winning it. It gets cut back. It's a 50-50 ball. Right now it's Cincinnati that have their tails up, and unfortunately for the Fury, the heads are down a wee bit, as you would expect. 5 minutes left to go in the game, plus time added on. And you're looking down the barrel of a 3-0 home loss against, as we said, one of the better teams here in 2018 USL season.
And don't forget, following this match, you can head over to the Ottawa Fury FC Facebook page and tune into our Facebook Live post-match show. We'll hear from Fury FC head coach Nikola Popovic. Steven DeSantos now for Ottawa. Cito Sione. Cito onto his right foot, takes the deflection. Calmly stopped by Spencer Rishi in the Cincinnati goal. It was certainly tested a lot more in that first half, and Cito swings Blake Smith to the turf. Statistically, you know, perhaps one of the surprising stats of this game is that possession is still quite even between these two sides, but it's really been possession with a purpose for FC Cincinnati. When they got that ball, it was just, you know, maybe a bit more killer instinct when they got it, and you saw immediately it was always Ledesma and Koenig running forward. And
I think the key thing when you start talking about possession, and there's another opportunity here.
Haber could get a clean shot on, and Crapo makes
last week, Graham, sorry. Possession of the ball is one thing, supporting the ball is another thing, but above all else, the penetration. And again this afternoon, unfortunately, we just haven't seen enough of it here in the second half. The first half, there was a few runs by Reid that was really getting in good advanced positions, but in the second half, I don't think outside of maybe one or two chances from open play, it's really been set pieces that Ottawa has had their better chances from, but the penetration just hasn't been there to allow the Fury to get a possibility, even decent shots on target. Whereas the penetration we've seen all second half from Cincinnati has been outstanding.
Hoyt with the interception and gives way to Danny Koenig. Now a foot race with Chris Manila, gets in beyond him. Koenig still going, plays this one across the face of goal, well out of the reach of Daniel Haber.
Well, terrific run down that right channel by the big Dane, wasn't it, Graham? He just left the defender for dead. Every stride he's pulling away from him. 2 minutes left to go here in the 90, minute and a half actually, Graham. Another substitution coming in for Cincinnati.
Sergio Minicio in possession. Kevin Oliveira now for Ottawa. Finds Carl Howarth. Bumped off the ball by Forrest Lasso. First to it is Justin Hoyt, intercepted by Minicio. Jamar Dixon. Cito now for Ottawa, down that right side to Eddie Edward.
And again, Graham, there's that 1v2 situation. You keep finding yourself, you're in good positions out wide, but you're in a 1v2, you're not getting anybody coming across to help you out. We're all expecting that ball to get knocked into the box beyond 2 defenders, and at times it's very, very difficult to get that done.
Cito with the delivery on the corner here for Fury FC. Sends that one into the back post. Spencer Rishi climbs the ladder and makes a save with Jamar Dixon in there looking to get on the other end of that delivery from Cito.
And Rishi's had a fairly quiet afternoon, Graham, as well. Obviously in the first half there was 5 shots at target, not necessarily on target. But I think the second half he's had a fairly quiet game. Obviously Evan Newton, the goalkeeper that started I think the last few games for them, getting a rest here this afternoon, but Richier's come in and done himself proud, and obviously letting the coach know that if you need me, I'm here, I can get the job done for you. And Richie Ryan not happy at all, having a chat with someone there about that tag. I think it's Cito there he's just having a word with. And as we see number 10, Emery Welshman coming in. And it will be Koenig coming off. Well, the big lad's done well up front, Graham, especially here in the second half. It's tough. It's tough when you're up against a physical lad like Colin Falvey, and I think he realised fairly early into this match, I'm going to stay away from Falvey and I'm going to push over the other side up against Manella. And I think here in the second half, he has at times run some of these lads in the back four a bit like a ragged doll, and unfortunately for the Fury, it's shown in the scoreline at 3-0 as we head into time added on at the end of the second half.
Chested down by Falvey, Edward to clear. Falls to Richie Ryan. Haber, now Welshman. Hoyt has joined the fray for FC Cincinnati. Jimmy McLaughlin. Marked by Minicio. McLaughlin trying to find a way through. Plays it in, knocked down by Manella. Richie Ryan to Forrest Lasso. Lasso again, pressure coming from Cito. Blake Smith through the middle. That one missed everybody. Now Haber trying to get it for Cincinnati. Foul called on that challenge from behind on Colin Falvey.
Yeah, good read again by the big Irishman, but at this stage of the game it's all about just getting that final whistle out of the way, Graham, and as you said, all eyes get turned to Wednesday's 10:30 kickoff. Oh dear, oh dear.
Haber wins that off Manella. Haber still going. Good save by Crapo. And I don't think Haber's going to make many friends after that one, as he had 2 teammates wide open in space, and Crapo had cut down that angle. Now a chance for Ottawa to break here. Cito. Has Carl Howarth with him. Cito still going. Finds DeSantos. Now Reed, he can't get it away cleanly.
Good defensive block though, just coming back, making sure the young lad didn't get his shot away game. I think Crepo's had a very solid game this afternoon. You look at it, a 3-0 loss, you say to yourself, well, wait a second. You know, you've given up 3 goals. How can you be one of the possible candidates for player of the game? Well, a save like that just cements the possibility that you may be called at the end of the match as a player of the game. But the final whistle goes, it's 3-0 for Cincinnati, and unfortunately for the Ottawa Fury, Graham, a disappointing second game of the homestand, and a 3-0 loss here this afternoon.
Certainly not the way that they saw things going down, and if you look at where this game was through 68 minutes, it was 0-0. You were coming back with a few more chances. You kind of weathered that first 10 minutes of the second half, where it got pretty hairy there for a while, and if not for a miss by Danny Koenig and an incredible couple of saves from Maxime Crepeau, could well have gone the other way.
Yeah.
69th minute, a piece of brilliance from Kenny Walker. Very quickly right after, it's 2-0. 8 minutes after the first one, it's 3-0, and that's how we ended this afternoon.
An unfortunate end to 6 to 8 minutes there. The Ottawa Fury were well in this game.
All right, time for a break. We'll be back to wrap things up. 3-0 the final. FC Cincinnati winners over Ottawa Fury FC. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
Gabriel Pizza, proud supporter of local sports. Gabriel Pizza, home of the bigger, better pizza. 310-7777 or GabrielPizza.com.
Did you know the Brick is 100% proudly Canadian? We employ over 5,000 Canadians, and nobody knows more about furnishing Canadian homes at the guaranteed lowest price than us. Saving you more. It's not just a slogan. Saving you more is our obsession.
What do you live for? Is it for your crew? For overcoming obstacles? Live for what you want. So what do you live for?
Back to TD Place, 3-0 the final this afternoon. FC Cincinnati get away with all 3 points here. And Gord, we were talking about it before the break. It certainly looked like this was going to be a much tighter affair. What we saw through the opening 45 minutes, you know, even what we saw through the first, 20 plus minutes of that second half. But FC Cincinnati got that first one, and that kind of broke the seal, and away they went from there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our Ottawa Citizen man of the match this afternoon. Didn't come out on the winning side, but you certainly liked the performance that you saw from him this afternoon.
I thought in the first half he was very, very lively, Graham. A youngster going up against some of these quality players, some of these international type players. And I thought he looked really, really solid in that first half, dropping a little bit deeper, getting the ball at his feet, running at defenders, certainly the 2 stoppers, little jinky junks here every once in a while. And I think it just made it difficult for Cincinnati to come to grips with him. Faded out in the second half, but I think most of the Fury players did fade out in the second half. Honourable mention certainly to goalkeeper Crepeau, but I think reading that first half, he's able to get 1 goal, just get things going. It may have turned the game altogether, but the sheer quality and class in the end changed it for Cincinnati, didn't it?
And it certainly makes you wonder if really the key to this game was whoever scored the first goal, because it certainly looked at points there towards from the kind of the 25th, 30th minute onwards of that opening half. Had Ottawa scored on that opportunity, whether it was from free kick from Oliveira, opportunity from Bruna, chance from Carl Howarth. Yeah. If any of those go in, do they have that confidence that they need right now? And do we see a different game? Because certainly once Cincinnati got that 1 goal, their game elevated to a completely different level.
I think the key thing is you want to be a fly in the wall. What was said in both dressing rooms at half-time, because a fire was lit underneath FC Cincinnati. The Fury, I think, were just content the way things were going. Unfortunately for them, they came out on the wrong end of a 3-0 scoreline here this afternoon.
We will break down the 3-0 Ottawa defeat this afternoon. A lot more in our Facebook Live post-match show. Begins momentarily. We'll also hear from Ottawa Fury FC manager Nikola Popovic. For Gordon Smith, Tyler McDonald, our producer, Mike Sutherland, and our entire crew, I'm Graham Ivory. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is Ottawa Fury FC Soccer.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League may not be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the express written consent of the United Soccer League.